Welcome, everybody. This is the February 16th, 2021 meeting of the Municipal Council of the Municipality of the County of Annapolis. We were quite pleased that last week, Dr. Robert Strang indicated that municipalities could now meet in person, and we were looking forward to that while following the proper protocols. However, today, February 16th, we're caught in an ice storm. And accordingly, we're meeting on Zoom today, and we're quite pleased that we were able to do that today. Otherwise, the meeting would have had to have been canceled. So I'll begin with the roll call. District 1.
Bruce Prout.
District 2.
Brian Fuzzy Connell.
District 3 is myself. District 4.
Mike Berto.
District 5.
Ben Longmire.
District 6.
Alec Morrison.
District 7.
David Hudson.
District 8.
Michael Gunn.
District 9.
Wendy Sheridan.
District 10.
Brad Redden.
And District 11.
Diane LeBlanc.
Thank you all. Everyone is present. The agenda has been circulated. Are there any amendments to the agenda as circulated?
Could I add something
Deputy
onto the
Wolf-Gunn?
late?
Yes,
Oh, could I add something on in the late editions at the end of it? I'd like to get a couple of dates set for these committees that we have, the Forestry Ad Hoc Committee and the Glyphosate Ad Hoc Committee. That work's supposed to be done by July. I'd like to get it started.
I did. We can do that. I did. I think I sent an email to the CAO asking whether or not we were able to have committee meetings now. And now that it seems as though the protocol has changed, that we can have council meetings, whether that included committees. And I don't know if we had a response to that. Mr. Catino, can we have committee meetings now? Do we know?
Warden, through you to council, the answer is yes. And I think Director Campbell had indicated that we could use council chambers, provided we don't have more than 10 people in total. Correct me, Don, if I'm wrong there. And then for any other of the other committee meetings, as long as we're safely distanced and wearing masks, we can do county business in a facility of just our choice. If Don could add to that, that'll be great.
Totally what I discovered in my investigation of that, Mr. CAO.
So under late editions, I'll put set dates for committee meetings.
Be lovely.
Are there any other amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Warden.
So, Councilor LeBlanc, yes?
Could we add the ad hoc committee for the review of the Bridgetown rates? It will be only 2 seconds for members just to inform the committee or who is on the committee.
Isn't that one of the motions coming up? Let me just check. There's a motion with respect to
That we form a committee, yes.
that's the annual reports, correspondence. Here it is. The Bridgetown Community Rate Review Committee, Councilor LeBlanc, is that the one you're talking about?
No, I will be advising of the members on that committee. So that's a total, it would be a different motion at the end. Am I correct, Madam Clerk? Should I add it at the end or?
You can add it at the end, but if the item is already coming up for discussion on the agenda, you can probably bring it up at that time.
Makes no difference to me.
Yeah, I think it would be better to bring it up when it comes up on the agenda. It's under reports and recommendations, committee of the whole,
Yeah, page 97.
triple I.
Yep.
Makeup of Bridgetown Community Rate Review Committee.
Works for me.
Okay. Anything else with respect to the agenda? Seeing none, I will call for a vote approving the agenda as amended.
Moved.
So move.
Is there a mover?
Go
So
ahead.
move.
Councilor LeBlanc moves, Deputy Warden Gunn seconds the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion's carried. The next item is African Heritage Month 2021. And I have a few comments that I'd just like to read. After 23 years of Inglewood, being invited by the community of Inglewood in celebration of African Heritage Month, COVID has preempted council to send our apologies with regrets for council to meet there this year for its February regular session of municipal council. The February 2021 African Heritage Month theme is Black History Matters. Listen, learn, share, and act. In recognition of this, I have signed the African Heritage Month proclamation, and it has been posted in the lobby in the Municipal Administration Building in Annapolis Royal, as well as on our Facebook and Twitter pages. In accordance with policy, we strive to post all of our proclamations in this way on the first of the month. Recreation staff have also produced a few exciting virtual events this year for African Heritage Black History Month. The first one is by Brenda J. Thompson, local author of Finding Fortune, documenting and imagining the life of Rose Fortune. She is sharing her novel by way of readings narrated by Rose Fortune direct descendant, Nika Cromwell. This video is on our website. Also on our website is a virtual discovery of the history of the Black Loyalists in Annapolis County. Throughout the county, there were many thriving early settlements. With help from our friends at Map Analysis, at Map Annapolis, we discover some of their stories. This also is on our website. So I say that in recognition of African Heritage Black History Month in the county of Annapolis. Any further comments with respect to my statement? Seeing none, we'll move along to approval of the minutes of the last regular council meeting. Does anyone have any comments with respect to the minutes as circulated? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote to approve the minutes of the last regular meeting held on January 19th.
So move.
Moved by the Deputy Warden, seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we'll go to councillor comments, and we'll go in chronological order, starting with District Number 1.
Thank you. I'm thinking back to last week, and I'd like to thank all the snowplow operators, local snow removal contractors, and friendly neighbors who used their snow blowers to help us all get dug out last week. I know history is repeating itself in a different way, perhaps today, but a large shout out to all the people that spent hours and hours helping us get out last week. Thank you.
Thank you. District 2?
Things are good in District 2. A lot of people still calling on the internet. Had a gentleman call this morning and very frustrated that he can go to Outram, which is a little bit more remote than Margatsville. And they have internet already, fiber off. So he was a little excited about that, but it's through Bell. And I try to explain how it is supposed to be working and why it's going on with Bell hooking up. So other than that, a lot of people communicating and reaching out to congratulate and to wish us well in our endeavor with trying to bring the county back on track and get rid of some of these lawsuits. I'm getting lots of comments on that throughout my whole district, and I'm just surprised there's a lot of people watching how we're doing. So I'm glad that the citizens have come to realize that they got to watch what we're doing. We're working on their behalf, and hopefully we're doing what the majority wants. Thank you.
Thank you for that. District 3 is myself. As with Councillor Connell, I will say I've received a lot of comments applauding us for the work that we're doing, which obviously makes me feel good. As far as District 3, one of the big issues is the Arlington Heights C&D site up on the North Mountain. And a number of people in my constituency are concerned about what's been going on there. And I can say that I've arranged a meeting tomorrow at the council offices, along with Councillor Redden, who's also interested in this, with representatives of the owners of the site. The site's now owned by a subsidiary company of the municipal group of companies. Dexter is another one of the subsidiaries of the municipal group of companies. Two representatives, maybe three, are coming from Halifax tomorrow to meet with Councillor Redden and myself in the council chambers, and we're going to start the process of reviewing what's gone on there and what's going to go on in the future, and monitoring a lot of the activities that go on there, including truck traffic and other aspects of that site. So that's an issue that's very important in my constituency. District 4. You're muted, Councillor Barto.
I'm taking over for Brad. The constituents in my district I've got several things that will be going on that I'm not at liberty to bring at this point because I don't have all the information. Some potential things that need to be done or maybe pushed along in our direction. I'll enlarge on that at a future date. I've got also questions from the internet. Constituents are saying that the lines of fiber optic is already been installed by their place, and there's been target dates on the site that's posted on our county site as to timing of hookup. But I told them it's they have to be patient because the pop centers have to be up and running before just having the internet lines isn't doing the whole package. So anyway, they were fine with that. I think everybody will be anxious to get up and hooked up as soon as possible. I'd also like to say I hope everybody had a good Heritage Day on Monday, and now we're back to winter again. So anyway, that's all I have for now.
Thank you. District 5.
Thank you. From District 5, I would also like to say a huge thank you for the snow removal. I had citizens reach out to me stating that it was quite a tremendous amount of snow to move through, and the plows had made it somewhat reasonable. I do know that personally on Shore Road West, we still struggle with the plows stopping at the stop sign at the bottom of our mountain. And so to the east and to the direct west, we don't seem to see the plows until late in the afternoon, usually around 4 or 5 p.m. So that may be something that I might look into sooner than later. As well, I'd had some citizens reach out with concern of the lines painted on the newly paved Parker Mountain Road, and the lines were painted late last fall and had since not taken well, and so are not visible, and so making it a bit challenging, certainly for seniors and some of us whose eyes are ever changing. As well, I had a citizen reach out to me actually too with a concern of a property that had been purchased on Shore Road West. And it had been purchased by Small Crafts and Harbor in 2019 to create a dump for rotten seaweed. And although COVID kind of slowed down that process, they do have some grave concerns over this development. Outside of that, everything else seems to be quiet. There is, continual noise, of course, in communities around the internet, but people are patient. So thank you.
Thank you. District 6.
Thank you. Charlene Walker of Clementsport, who is a baker extraordinaire and manager of the Cornwallis Pop-Up Summer Market, has produced some very delicious and thankfully very rich Valentine's cupcakes. I distributed some to staff last week, and today was to be the turn of council. Alas, notwithstanding the theories of Buckminster Fuller concerning time and space travel, I am unable to distribute them to you. But rest assured, I will find other takers for these cupcakes. I attended the monthly board meeting of the Cornwallis Park Community Association. Topics included nominations for Annapolis County Volunteer of the Year, a desire for additional playground space and equipment, the need for 2 more dog waste collection bins, and suggestions for a summer fling social occasion. I will assist by making the necessary introductions and in other ways as well. Following a short pause, Wednesday morning coffee sessions at the Clementsport Legion are in session again and are open to all. I attended the annual general meeting of the Friends of the Annapolis Royal Library. That organization is in very good shape, sponsors speakers, book sales, and very generously provides many types of support to the Annapolis Royal Library. If you're not a local library member, please consider joining. Membership is free and opens many opportunities. The annual general meeting for the Library Boards Association of Nova Scotia will be held on the 17th of February, and I will chair in my capacity as president. The following night, I will attend the regular meeting of the Annapolis Valley Regional Library System. Thank you.
Thank you very much. District 7.
Yes, I would just like to begin by echoing the comments of my fellow councillors regarding the snow removal and the good job that was done in that regard. Things in District 7 have been quiet over the past while. I guess I continue to receive emails and phone calls regarding various matters. The ones that seem to be coming to the surface of late is the Ole Elementary School in Bridgetown, and I guess secondly the Bridgetown community tax rate. But other than that, I guess everything in District 7 appears to be quiet. So thank you very much.
Thank you. At District 8,
There we go. Morning all. I'd like to begin by expressing appreciation for how the county has been recognizing African Heritage Month. While it's unfortunate that we can't meet up in the Inglewood Community Hall, I am pleased to see that the work of local author Brenda Thompson featured on our website, read by local talent Micah Cromwell. Thank you to the staff at the county who helped bring the Life of Rose Fortune to our screens for our information and enjoyment. Another shout out to Nadine Bardo, our Recreation and Special Projects Officer, who will be making Annapolis County Events Guide digital this year. I believe this will be a great asset for the community and groups to be able to keep event listings current and publicized, and will be kept up to date on the county website. I strongly encourage community organizers to keep Nadine informed about upcoming happenings. Communications from constituents this month were in 3 categories, really. Missed garbage pickup due to spare drivers not continuing down an unpaved road. Correspondence and calls about parklands to be developed by the municipality, or then that would be the picnic park in Upper Clements, and the recently acquired waterfall site off the Power Lot Road in Clementsville. And a general appreciation for the efforts made by council and our interim CAO to inform about the issues and increased transparency, particularly with relation to the state of the finances of the county. And one final note, this is what I've got written here, and one final note of thanks to those who made the skating rink in Clementsville a reality this year. You know, a month ago, I looked at it and I said, my God, they're living or dreaming high. But by God, they've got it, kept it going, and they're skating on it. It's a great place to have where people can, you know, gather safely, get out and enjoy themselves and stay active. Now, I got to add this part. We used to have a count of people who watched the video displayed on our website. And there used to be, when I first came onto council, the average of about 30 people that would watch that. Through the years, that number has really grown, but they don't list that number of people anymore who watch it. I know there's more than 30 now because I actually have about 30 friends of mine that I know around that watch it weekly. So I'd be curious to know how many people now are watching our county videos at the end of it. That's all. Thank you.
thank you, Deputy Warden. Where am I? District 9?
Thank you, Warden. I've been having ongoing meetings with the Hospital Foundation. We're still in the midst of doing our fundraising campaign for the new collaborative primary healthcare center that's been open since December. Anyone wishing to make a donation can go to the Soldiers Memorial Hospital Foundation website and do so. And also I want to tell staff what an excellent job they've done on promoting highlighted the importance of volunteers in our county. It's great on our webpage. You can go directly and fill in your nomination form there. They've just done a superb job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. District 10, Councillor Redden.
Thank you. Wanted to make a note of a place I've never had the privilege of visiting. The iconic Shakes on Main has reopened, with the pandemic and everything, for all your nostalgic dining needs. We also have a new drugstore here in Lawrencetown, which is pretty great. It wasn't a great hardship to get to Middleton or Bridgetown before, but it's very nice to have it so close. And with that, there's also a clinic, I believe, proposed, not working actively yet. But on that note, there's also, I noted just up in the last couple of days on the IWK website, a position for a physician in the village of Lawrencetown. So hopefully that fills up quickly. It'd be very nice to have locally and for the county. That's all.
Thank you. And Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. First of all, I'd like to start by saying I attended the orientation for the King's Transit Board this month. The whole board is new, so it was an interesting meeting or orientation. It brought about everything around, so we'll have more discussion on that. Secondly, I'd like to say, yes, it was nice that we had, well, it wasn't so nice that we had all that snow, however, that we had a clearing of snow. However, in the subdivision, it was not cleared as quickly as the residents would have liked, mainly because it caused concern for the elderly and those that are, you know, in the next level generation. And, you know, if the snowplow is not coming at the right time, and if they're going to be sick or something, they can't plow out their driveway because the people that do their driveway won't come before the cleaning of the roads because they get stuck. So there's a little bit of concern there in the removal of snow in the subdivisions. The next thing is we received great news for the Three Rivers Community Center. The Nova Scotia Community Health Board has awarded a grant to the Three Rivers Community Center to enable them to provide a 6-week chair yoga program and free of charge. So it would be including gentle movement into your life and able to help those who have trouble moving to get their muscles and everything moving slowly but surely. And all the COVID protocols would be followed. So that will be coming up soon on their website on what days they would start that program. So it's great news, and look on the Three Rivers Community Center site and you will find out what day it might be. The last thing is I would have to say kudos to Nadine. Congratulations on those virtual events that you've been preparing for all sorts of things. The Heritage Day, the African Heritage Month, for the events listings, all those things, and the volunteers and filling out, all those things are important. It is hard for some who have no internet or have trouble with the internet. However, you have to follow through one way or another to be able to go forward. And I find that our staff has done very well in that department and pulling out no stops and going the distance and trying to keep everybody informed. So at this time, I'd like to say thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Warden.
Thank you. Going down the agenda, the next item on the agenda is business arising from the minutes. There's nothing shown there. So the next item is new business. And the first item is the Volunteer Week Selection Committee. This is a memorandum from Nadine Barteau to the councillors. It's about the Volunteer Week Selection Committee, and we need 2 volunteers from council, as I understand it. As part of the process, the selection committee will select an individual from those nominated to represent this region at the annual Provincial Volunteer Awards ceremony. So we need 2 councillors to represent the municipality on the selection committee. Are there 2 councillors that would volunteer to be on that committee? I see Councillor Longmire and Deputy Warden Gunn. Do we need a runoff for this, or shall I accept those?
Accept.
I think I'll accept those 2. Thank you very much for volunteering. And I'm sure that Ms. Barteau will advise you of the details as to when the meeting is. I do see that they're planning to select the provincial volunteers via Zoom on March the 1st. I see that in the memo. So thank you very much for that.
Warden Parrish?
Yes, who is that?
It's Carolyn.
Yes.
If you can see Councillor Longmire and Deputy Warden, Nadine asked that you would contact her directly, please. Her contact information is at the bottom of the memo. Thank you.
Thank you
Before
for that.
February 19th.
The next item on the agenda is the CAO January monthly report. Would someone like to move to receive that for information? Councillor Hudson moves, Councillor LeBlanc seconds. Mr. Catino, would you like to add to that before we open it up for any discussion?
Warden, through you to council, it's only placed on this agenda for this time. Next time it will appear on the committee of the whole with the rest of the reports. Because I do weekly reports, I'd ask council if it was okay to submit my weekly reports as one item when it comes up for a monthly report. So unless there's any questions on any of the items I've submitted for January, I'll take them now, Warden.
Are there any questions for the acting CAO further to his very extensive weekly reports? Deputy Warden Gunn?
Thank you. I read the weekly reports, but it kind of it evades me week by week. Will we get, and I don't think, yeah, we got a synopsis of it here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It was moved.
I don't see, oh, Councillor Redden, you have a question?
Not so much a question as much comment, and I've found these reports to be incredibly useful, and I really appreciate them, and would recommend them to everybody to read, at the risk of overwhelming Carolyn with responses from the public to the for the package, for the council preparatory package to get a hold of these meetings or these reports. I really recommend that anybody with interest get a hold of them and have a good read. They're a really good synopsis of what is going on with council, not just in the meetings, but behind the scenes. That's all.
Thank you. Any other comments with respect to the CAO reports? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote on the motion to receive. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councillor Longmire, that wasn't an opposed, was it? You were just late getting your hand up? Councillor Longmire? Hello?
Sorry, no.
You weren't?
I was just scratching my lip.
Okay. Motion's carried. Next, Nova Scotia Municipal Affairs and Housing, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Plan. Mr. Catino, can you address that?
Warden, through you to council, this is a letter approving the extension of the Hillside Street project, and it's simply saying that they'll allow us to continue to the next year. Don't know if there are any questions. If there are any questions, certainly Director McGuinness will respond.
Any questions on that? Madam Clerk?
There needs to be a motion of council for the warden and clerk to sign that agreement extension amendment.
I'll ask for that motion. Deputy Warden Gunn, did you have a question or were you moving that?
Question. I'll move it to get it on the floor.
Okay, so it's moved. Madam Clerk, would you read that again, please? Read the motion.
Yes, to authorize the warden and clerk to sign the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Plan Water Distribution Upgrades Project number 05-18-0053, amendment number 2.
So it's been moved by Deputy Warden Gunn. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Barto. Now, Deputy Warden Gunn, you had a question about that?
Thank you. So we basically started this job, or the money, the funding for this, I don't know what, a year and a half ago. And we've started funding, looking for funding for Bear River Comfort Center and potable water for the Annapolis side of Bear River, what, 3 years ago? And brought up 4 years ago. So I'm really kind of wondering what made this project move ahead so quick as compared to the Bear River Comfort Center project. Perhaps I could have, just a line or two to explain that to me. Thank you.
Mr. McGinnis, can you respond to that?
It's only speculation, but I would think it was the state of the water system that the Hillside community was having. It was almost on the verge of collapse. So, and they didn't have an alternative at that point. And that's only speculation on my part. In terms, if I may comment on the Bear River Comfort Station project, there is a requirement for a letter to go forward to the province. And that letter will be coming forward in March for council consideration to confirm our commitment for funding for that project. And that needs to go to the province. It was intended to go, I think it probably got caught up in the election, but it'll come forward at the next committee of the whole.
Thank you. Councillor Connell?
So why is there funding being sought for Comfort Center in Bear River and not in the rest of our communities? Was that something that was brought out special for the Bear River area? Or I know that in Port George, we've got a committee fundraising to get our community hall as a comfort center, and we're not getting any help.
Deputy Warden Gunn, I think that this goes back to before Councillor Connell and I were on council most recently, and perhaps you could give us some background to respond to his inquiry.
Yes, I'd like to. Thank you very much. So years ago, there's no potable water on the Annapolis side of Bear River, right? But on the Digby side of Bear River, we have the Hillsborough Water Society, all kinds of water, good water. It's maintained. They have, they put chlorinated, it's tested. It's everything we want for water, and vast amounts of it. There's none on the Annapolis side. So the idea of the Comfort Center was that if Annapolis County put a Comfort Center in, then we could apply to Canada Water wastewater grant and have water coming in. The problem being is Annapolis County in the application put the Comfort Center in the application. That's not water, wastewater infrastructure. It's a comfort center. We kind of screwed up. We should have built the comfort center and then applied, right? The comfort center is small a part of it. It's, what is it, $30,000, $40,000, maybe 60 to build it, depending. It's not that. We needed, according to our old CAO, a reason to bring that water across. Otherwise, because what they're up against would be creating a water utility. Well, that would be a water utility between two municipalities, which everybody was trying to avoid. And they really don't need it yet because there's only less than 30 people there, and there always will be, or thus far, 30 people hooked to the water supply. And until you get over X amount of people hooked up, you won't need a water utility. But the thing is, there's no pipe coming across Bear River. Now, a few years ago, I offered to go over to them and hook into the Hillsborough Water Society, run a 2 or 3 inch pipe PVS across the Bear River Bridge, and then just fan it out so they could have water, because they have no water in the summer. They have to haul water in. It's very expensive and very inconvenient. So that's why, and that was our way around it. If we had a comfort center, then we could apply to grant funding for it. Now, since then, as it turns out, ACOA has offered to pay for the comfort center. We were promised years ago funding by one of our politicians. If it was under X amount of dollars, the province wouldn't have a problem. That never happened. So when we got a feasibility study done, which Digby actually tossed some money in, and which Digby is now currently ready to give us $20,000 toward the price of this project. I think that's very generous of them. So we should take advantage of that. Now, we all know the year ends in March for municipalities and funding and all the rest of it. So we need to have this sort of going along, because Digby has been holding this money in safety for a couple of years now, actually increased it somewhat. And they've held it in safety for a couple of years. This is the last year they're going to do it because they don't think Annapolis is serious about it. Then you go back to the provincial government. You go back to the provincial government and I hear from them, oh, we need to make this one of Annapolis's priorities. So I came back to the former council and said, is this a priority or not? They agreed to send a letter to the government saying that this was one of our priorities, water in Bear River. So we did send that letter. Of course, in government bureaucracy, letters get mislaid. So apparently it was dug back out again. And now they know about it. So where's it going from them? I've heard all kinds of song and dances the last couple of years, but that's just a quick little breakdown. I hope you could follow it of why we're here. Thank you.
Mr. McGinnis, did you have your hand up there? Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the terminology of comfort center. It's when the project started, that was what we called the facility that was going to be constructed in Bear River. It's essentially a washroom to accommodate bus tours. That's why ACOA is involved. It's more of a tourism project. And the terminology comfort center with the last hurricane has now become synonymous with emergency response or REMO issues. It's not the same facility. It's really about a washroom facility in Bear River. It's not about a community comfort center to be used during a storm event. It doesn't have any capacity for holding meetings or for the public to gather. It's essentially a washroom facility located in behind the Legion.
Okay.
Councilor Connell, do you have a response to that, or should we move on?
No, move on. No, that was
Okay.
a better response, because I didn't feel that our community halls all across our county should be involved if we're going to put comfort centers in.
Thank you. Councilor Redden, you wanted to add something?
Just a quick clarification. That was an excellent synopsis there, Deputy Warden. I was wondering if you could clarify the lack of potable water. Do you mean they have no water supply, or they have a groundwater problem as well?
Thank you. There's no water. What water is there is solid, full of uranium, arsenic, and all the rest of it, if you can get it, and salt in Bear River on the Annapolis side. What they've been doing for years is there's a little brook in back of Bear River that runs down that side into the Bear River. They've been damming that up for years. And so there's several dams that have been created into cisterns there that have been supplying water. But if you've got a restaurant or any kind of a business on the Annapolis side, which there are many, they're dependent on water supplies that will go dry on them in the summer months. They just dry up. There's no water. And if what water they can get is not fit to drink, it's not potable. So perhaps, yeah, you could flush a few toilets with it, but you wouldn't want to mistake somebody by, making a pot of tea or something, or boiling a potato, right? So, it's not fit. There's no supply there. There's no amount of water. Everything goes dry. The aquifer is on the Digby side. It's the Hillsborough aquifer. It runs right down to Weymouth, right? That's where they get it's the same aquifer. It's right along, which is not on the Annapolis side. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, we'll move along to the next item under new business. It's an information report from the acting CAO. It's supplementary information on legal expenses. There is a report here. And Mr. Coutinho, would you like to speak to that?
The clerk is looking for some attention.
Oh,
would you please call for the question on the motion that was made regarding the ICIP water distribution for the warden and clerk to sign that agreement?
Sorry about that. Yes, I will. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
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 Motion's carried. Thank you,
Thank
Madam
you.
Clerk. Information report from the acting CAO.
Thank you, Warden. Through you to council. In my haste to get you a report on legal expenses at the last meeting, I had inadvertently omitted the legal expenses associated with general services that we require and that we paid for in the same time period. So that amount was $286,616. So the new total, including the legal expenses that I presented to you at the last meeting, is now at $1,322,082. So I just wanted to make sure that that council knows that through an omission on my part, I had inadvertently left out the expenses that we incur on the general accounts. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there a motion to receive that for information? Moved by Deputy Warden, seconded by Councillor Barto. Are there any questions with respect to that report? Councillor Sheridan?
So, Mr. CAO, for you, Warden, in regards to that amount, is there a breakdown for that, or is this pertaining to all of the projects? Or is there some type of breakdown?
Warden, for you to council, I haven't taken I haven't got the breakdown. I could for all of them, and it would take some time, but because we have to go and open up several different files. But this is the cumulative cost that I'm bringing forward to you.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
Are there other questions? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote on the motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you for that. Now we will go on to there's a list of annual reports that are next on our agenda. In fact, there are 20 of them. These reports have all been distributed to the councillors in the package. And what I intend to do is ask for a motion to receive each of these reports for information. And when any report comes up that any councillor has any question with respect to that report, we can discuss the report. And if not, we'll receive them for information. There are 2 reports that were not received, and I don't intend to call for those, but I will call for all the others. Okay, so I'll start with the first report from the Annapolis Basin Conference Center. Is there a motion to receive that for information? Councillor Morrison, is there a second? Councillor LeBlanc, is there any discussion on that? Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I would redraw the attention of my colleagues to the last paragraph of Ms. Earle's report with regard to the Fundy YMCA. Thank you.
Okay. I'm just looking at, you say the last paragraph, Councillor Morrison?
Yes. I wasn't looking for a discussion. I just wanted to redraw the attention of council to that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Deputy Warden Gunn?
Thank you. This is where it's always nice when you actually have a presenter, because I do have a question that I'm sure Councillor Morrison can't answer or wouldn't be, but I have heard some news about perhaps another venture that the Annapolis Basin Conference Center may well be looking at, which could be very significant for our county. If they were here, I would ask them right out.
Councillor Morrison, are you able to respond to that inquiry?
I can, but perhaps not with as full an answer as was requested. I am aware that the Annapolis Basin Conference Center is in discussions and negotiations with a number of groups, organizations, companies, and industries, which, if one or more come to fruition, will result in an increase of business for the Annapolis Basin Conference Center and the county. Thank you.
Councilor LeBlanc, did you have a question?
Well, I have a statement on page 30 where it says 2021. They have announced that that ABCC will be one of only 3 cadet training centers operating in 2021 in Canada, and the only one in Atlantic Canada. So it does make it an important area, and that at the same time they are having the Sea Cadets as well as the Army Cadets this summer. So that's interesting news. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is the Annapolis County 4-H Club. Is there a mover to receive that for information? Councillor Connell, seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Discussion, comments, questions? Councillor Prout.
Just what I think is a correction, 4th paragraph down, I believe that should be Malvern Square area instead of Melvin Square area.
Okay, I see that. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is the Annapolis County Federation of Agriculture. Would someone move to receive that for information? Councillor Sheridan, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. That's page 32 of 110. Right now. Yeah, 32. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is the Annapolis County Fire Services Report. Would someone like to move to receive that for information? Councillor Bartow, seconded by Councillor Hudson. Let me just pull it up here. Federation of, we're at the fire services. Okay. Discussion on the fire services report. Councillor Connell.
On page 35, under their showing their activities for the fire services, under Bear River, it's got firefighter hours responding to calls 2,000, firefighter hours attending training 2,000. I think that, and the next one's 2,000. I think that must be a mistake in that. All the other fire departments show a difference in their status there in those 3 items. And Bear River just kind of put 2,000 to each one. So I think that must be a typo or something there. But recognizing that they do put in a lot of hours and a lot of volunteer hours, our fire services is a very important role to our county. So I will congratulate them on that.
I see that, yeah. Any other comments or questions with respect to the fire services report? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is the Annapolis County Ground Search and Rescue Report. Would someone move to receive that for information? Councillor Bartow, second. Councillor Connell. Comments or questions? Councillor Sheridan? Did you have a question?
Yes, just trying to unmute. In this, they were asking for our help to get some more funding from the province. So I was just wondering if we could send a letter to the province on their behalf. Just they do so much, and they're unable to do fundraising this year. They do need extra assistance. Would that be possible? I guess.
Can any staff respond to that suggestion?
Warden, through you to council, that's certainly, if it's council's wish that we do this, I certainly can draft a letter to the province on your behalf.
Thank you. Do
I'll
you need a
second that
motion for
motion.
that?
Yeah, we'll have a motion on that. So I think perhaps rather than amending the motion to receive, maybe we'll deal with that and then have a further motion to write the letter.
Yes,
Thank you.
please.
So are there any other discussions with respect to the motion to receive the report of the Annapolis County Ground Search and Rescue? Deputy Warden Gunn?
Thank you. We've been, where are they housed out of now? For, since I've been here, we've been talked of all kinds of places to house the ground search and rescue. Their gear sits outside in this fella's yard. Half the time they don't know where, they have a hard time keeping track of their gear. And it's sitting out in the weather. So for years, there was a time we talked about the old Bridgetown rink, that they might go there. My God, there's been talk about the old dog shelter up there, that we were going to give them half of that. Well, I don't think they've got a place yet. And all these places we have in the county, we can't find a place to put ground search and rescue in. The other question about ground search and rescue is, most other municipalities around give their grounds and search and rescue, we grant them $5,000 a year, or they grant them $5,000 a year. I don't think Annapolis County was doing that. And we made a change last year, but I don't think it went up to that amount. These folks really work hard for us. And when we need them, they're always there, and these guys have other jobs, all kinds, and they need a place to train out of. They need some support. They might not be asking it here, but for years now, they have asked for it many times. That's all I have to say.
Can anyone answer the question as to where the gear is stored?
Everywhere.
Everywhere, did I hear someone say?
Yeah.
Really?
Warden, I can come back to council with some information after I've checked with staff and with ground search and rescue. I'll get back to you with
Thank
a
you for
response
that.
on that.
Thank you. Councillor Prout?
Thank you. I think we should have more information on their report. Councillor or Deputy Warden Gunn's comments are well taken. I know there was talk a year ago of some issues, and also where, looking for a place to stay, to train, to store their gear, store their equipment. It's a shame to see people working so hard to provide such an important service, and they need more support, I think, from the county. I would agree with that, and I thank the CAO for he's going to be looking into that for us, and I look forward to hearing back on the issues that have been raised.
Yeah. So that report from Mr. Coutinho, we'll expect that to come back to council, and that will probably provoke some other comments or questions when it comes back. Any other general comments with respect to the report of the ground search and rescue? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Now, Councillor Sheridan, did you want to make a motion?
Yes, please. I would like to make a motion that we send a letter to the province on behalf of Ground Search and Rescue to seek provincial funding, more provincial funding. I'm not sure how much they get now. They are in need. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor LeBlanc? Is there discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk?
Who would the letter be addressed to?
Premier.
The province, somebody in the province, I don't know who.
I don't know which minister that would go to.
I'm sure Mr. Catino can figure that out.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Any other comments, Ms. Campbell? Ms. Campbell, did you have a question or comment?
I think
You-
I can provide some clarity for that, and that's probably the minister responsible for emergency management who has responsibility for ground search right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments with respect to the motion to send the letter? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is the report from the Annapolis Royal Historic Gardens. Just flipping my pages here.
Page 40.
Page 41. Would someone like to move to receive this for information so we can have it on the floor? Moved by Councilor Bartow, seconded by Deputy Warden Gunn. Discussion? Long report, nice pictures. Councilor Morrison.
Thank you. What I'm going to say probably applies to every organization with which we have experience, but I really do want to draw specific attention to the performance of Trish Fry, who is the general manager of the gardens. She has inspired the staff, and they have been able to respond to any challenge, any opportunity, any crisis in order to ensure that the public has the maximum access to the historic gardens and that the historic gardens are always kept to a standard that is worthy of the attention of the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Morrison. I can echo those comments as a longtime board member at the Gardens and a former treasurer. Other comments with respect to the report from the Gardens? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is the report from the Annapolis detachment of the RCMP. Would someone like to move the receipt of that report? Councilor Sheridan moves. I missed the seconders. You're all too fast for me. Deputy Warden, or sorry, Councilor LeBlanc, seconds. Discussion on that report. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is the Annapolis Valley Exhibition Report. Someone move the receipt of that report for purposes of discussion. Moved by Councilor Redden, seconded by Councilor Bartow. Discussion of the Annapolis Valley Exhibition Report. Just bear with me for a moment here.
We're on page 61. That helps.
Yeah, 61, 62.
61, I have it now.
Okay.
So it's been moved and seconded to receive this report for information. Any comments or questions? No. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I,
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is the Annapolis Valley Regional Library Report. Councilor Morrison moves to receive for information, seconded by Councilor LeBlanc. Discussion. Councilor Morrison.
Thank you. As my colleagues know, I'm the Annapolis County representative on the library board. And I do want to applaud the board and staff performance in the face of COVID to keep the library facilities going. Also, this is the point at which the chief librarian, Anne Marie Mathieu, would comment on the performance of the Annapolis County Library representative on the Annapolis County Regional Library Board. But unfortunately, she's not here to do that. I could do it myself, but I don't think it's necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments with respect to the library report? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Now, the next report that was received is under L, the Southwest Nova Biosphere Reserve Association. Would someone like to move the receipt of that, Deputy Warden Gunn, for information? Second, Councillor Bartow. Is there any discussion? Councillor Connell.
When they're given a report, it would be nice if they didn't use acronyms, because I didn't have a clue who that was for.
I shared the same issue, Councillor Connell.
I hate that.
Any other comments with respect to the report from the Southwest Nova Biosphere Reserve Association? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Oh, Deputy Warden Gunn, you wanted to make a comment?
Thank you. I'd like to speak on this a little bit because I'm the member on this board. Listen, I think this group does a lot of work that's really not seen. We promote, the southwest of Nova Scotia as a World Heritage, biosphere. All the counties is it's almost like a catalyst. It brings us all together in southwestern Nova Scotia. Some of the projects that they mentioned, the amazing places that they're on, with the combined with the Science Atlas, which can be put together in many, many layers of what is in Southwest Nova. It'll be used for a learning tool for generations and generations to come. I think they do good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments with respect to that report? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is the Special Olympics of Annapolis County report. Someone like to move the receipt of that for information? Councillor Connell, seconded by Councillor Hudson. Discussion. Deputy Warden Gunn.
Thank you. I didn't realize we had this group in the county. I didn't remember them before, but by God, I got to thank them very much for the service they do. There's a lot of people here need recognition. Thank you.
Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I will echo the comments of the Deputy Warden and also recall for colleagues that for at least the last 3 or 4 years, we have been trying to communicate with this organization to the effect that we would like them very much to consider holding some events in Annapolis County. And perhaps that might be a matter I will bring up at a future committee of the whole meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Connell.
Yes, and I'd like to echo Councillor Gunn's remarks there, Deputy Warden's remarks. The Special Olympics crew are very important to the county. They always have been. At one time, we used to have a fun curling bonspiel with them, the counselors and stuff. And, it's enjoyable to see the thrill in those individuals that have the opportunity to do things out of their realm and spend the day with the council and stuff. And it always was enjoyable. So no, they're very important. Thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes, thank you. And if you look at the back page of that, the Special Olympics Nova Scotia gives out awards every year. And in 2020, they nominated Jim Spurl for male coach, and he was chosen, as well as one of their participants, a male athlete by the name of Dylan Taylor, and he was also chosen as the winner. So they do great work, and I applaud them for that.
Yes, thank you for that.
To the two. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Next is the annual report from the Trans-County Transportation Society. Someone like to move the receipt of that report? Councillor Prout. Second, Councillor Hudson. Discussion? Councillor Prout.
Thank you. I'd just like to further applaud TCTS. I know they provide a very important, that's the word I'm looking for, a very important resource for people in, not just in our county, but across into Kings County. I believe it's as far as Aylesford. I have numerous acquaintances and neighbors who avail themselves of what's available as far as transfers into the city, into Halifax, into Valley Regional Hospital, and so on. And they're on the road in all kinds of weather. I don't know if they're on the road today, but it takes quite a storm to get them to shut down. And the county has been very supportive in the last year. I take a look at the vehicle count summary on page 77. And it's nice to know that I think there's only one vehicle that is up for replacement this year. Everything else is in good shape, it looks like. So once again, they provide a great service, and I'm glad to read their report and to move its acceptance. Thank you.
Councillor Connell?
They used to be housed in Bridgetown. Where are they housed out of now? Like, they're still within our county, but where?
Can anyone answer that question?
I believe they're housed, and I stand to be corrected, in the old distillery.
Yes.
Or that's where their offices are, I believe, in Bridgetown still.
That's where they are.
Councillor Longmire, you seem to be agreeing. Are you aware of where they
Yes.
keep the vehicles?
The Trojans.
Yes, the vehicles are all there, and they're on the other side of that building and inside.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Connell?
Yeah, and this is one of the organizations that started many years ago, and it's good to see that they've been able to enlarge their capacity to help Annapolis County residents, and their determination to stay as an active group. And it is a well-deserved and needed for the public of Annapolis County. So hats off to them.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Longmire?
Thank you. I know with the recent concern with ambulance and transportation for patients to and from, the city, and to appointments at the other end to Yarmouth and throughout. I know that there's been some question around TCTS being able to offer transportation with assistance by a health trained person for those who need oxygen therapy. So I know that that's been a serious concern during COVID, especially. It takes a lot of the ambulances off the road for other emergent needs. So it'll be interesting in the future if TCTS can come up with a solution around perhaps that.
Thank you for that. Other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion's carried. Next is the report from the Victorian Order of Nurses. Would someone like to move the receipt of that for information? Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Discussion? Councillor Morrison.
I have 7 brothers and sisters, and each one of us was what I call a VON baby. And I always have a soft spot in my heart and a spot in my head for the work of this terrific organization, and I applaud them. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is the report from the Visitor Information Center in Annapolis Royal. Would someone like to move the receipt of that for information? Councillor Bartow, seconded by Councillor Connell. Just going to turn this up on my documents here. Discussion with respect to the Visitor Information Center. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is the Visitor Information Center in Bear River. Would someone like to move to receive that report for information? Deputy Warden Gunn moves, seconded by Councillor Sheridan. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is the report from the Visitor Information Center in Bridgetown. Would someone like to move the receipt for information of that report? Councillor Hudson, second. Second. Councillor Sheridan. Discussion. Let me just find that here on my list.
Page 94.
94.
94?
Yes.
Discussion on the Bridgetown Visitor Information Center. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is the Visitor Information Center in Lawrencetown. Who would like to move the receipt of that? Councillor Redden, do you want to move that?
Where is it?
He does. Second, Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is the Visitor Information Center in Middleton. Would someone like to move the receipt of that report? Councillor Sheridan, second. Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion? Councillor LeBlanc.
Just to point that they are in the last paragraph going to again operate virtually from the McDonald Museum.
No.
Sorry, I missed that, Councillor LeBlanc. Can you say
The
that
last
again?
paragraph indicates that they are again going to operate virtually from the McDonald Museum.
Yeah, they're going to operate virtually because the McDonald Museum aren't going to have them. Councillor Connell, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to make it, I just hope they have a better season for the upcoming summer, and hopefully things will open up, and hopefully Canadians will tour Canada, and they'll get some visitors coming through this year.
Any other comments with respect to the report from Middleton? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. We'll go on to the Committee of the Whole recommendations. I'm just going to turn up the heat here in my room. I think the fire's gone out in the other room. So we're at the portion of the meeting where we've got the reports and recommendations from Committee of the Whole.
If I may, Mr. Warden?
Yes, Deputy Warden?
You need me to read those out?
Yeah, just for the purpose of those watching, the practice is that the Deputy Warden reads out the motions that of recommendation that come from Committee of the Whole. Then it's seconded and we have a discussion again if anyone wishes to discuss the motions. But before we do that, I see Councillor Prout has a comment.
Thank you. I may have missed it, but we also have a report here from the Annapolis County Farm Museum, their annual report. It
Yeah,
wasn't
you're right.
listed, but it's
That
in the
is-
But
package.
it wasn't listed, you're right.
But
Oh,
that's
maybe-
Lawrencetown.
Madam Clerk?
That is the Lawrencetown, where the Lawrencetown Visitor Information Center is.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, I wondered if that was the connection, but I stand corrected. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before we head into the recommendations from Committee of the Whole?
Nope.
Okay, Deputy Warden Gunn, away we go.
AM-1.2.1, remuneration for warden, deputy warden, councilors, policy amend. In accordance with 7-day notice having been given, I move that municipal council amend AM-1.2.1, remuneration for warden, deputy warden, and councilors policy by deleting in section 7, subject to providing proof that he/she has established an instrument such as a tax-free savings account, or other suitable investment instrument for this purpose.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Redden, seconds. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next.
2, strike ad hoc Bridgetown Community Rate Review Committee. I move, in accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, that municipal council strike an ad hoc Bridgetown Rate Review Committee to review the Bridgetown rates.
Second for that, Councillor Hudson. Discussion? Councillor Morrison.
Thank you. I'm not quite sure that we have within the county staff a motion meister, one who follows the motions to see if action has been taken. And I remember my colleague, Councillor Hudson, putting forth a motion that was adopted by council that asked for a report to be presented that gave the figure of the taxes paid by the folks in the Bridgetown community, and likewise the services the folks in Bridgetown community receive. Now, has that motion gone by, or is this motion an extension of the motion made by Councillor Hudson?
Mr. Coutinho?
Warden, through you to Councillor Morrison, you're correct. That motion did come forward. And when I was looking through it with my staff, it got quite complex. So I did write to Councillor Hudson as well as I copied the warden, just to let them know that, for us to be able to identify what was asked of us is going to take quite a bit of work. specifically, the council is aware that when the rates were struck, they were struck with the UARB having had some involvement, well, a lot of involvement, and the former council also striking rates. And a lot of the work that was done by the UARB was quite extensive. And in order for us to actually try and break down, you know, are you getting true value? Should there be cost increases, cost decreases? You know, what is going to be the rates if you move one rate up, and yeah, and is something including the base rate? Is it not? All of those things, it was going to take much more involvement, and hence that came back for discussion, and it was felt best that an ad hoc group be struck. It's not going to take. It's going to take the better part of a year, I think, is what we determined, to be able to get all of the facts out, do a proper report and proper study. So with that, Warden, I just wanted to give an explanation for how we got here, striking an ad hoc committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Response, Councillor Morrison?
Yes, and thank you for that very full explanation. And that's what I thought. But should we not have some administrative action to deal with Councillor Hudson's original motion? Should we not at the next committee of the whole bring forward a motion to quash that, or to give some indication as to why that specific motion is not being actioned?
I'll ask Mr. Coutinho and the clerk to review that, Councillor Morrison, and if something needs to be done, we can deal with it at the next committee of the whole. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sheridan?
So after the meeting last week, I went back and I had to watch the video because I couldn't there wasn't any information in our package regarding this. So I went back and reviewed the video. I was listening to Louis speak, and he was saying how complex this can be, how it's going to impact staff and their time. And I'm wondering if this is really the time to be doing this, because we have so much on like Louis' plate right now. We have a new CAO that's going to be coming in. To me, we have so much behind us that we haven't fixed yet. To bring this on staff, plus the project in Albert's department with all the planning, I feel, in my opinion, that we're putting way too much on staff right now. And I looked at some of the rates in Middleton, for example. The tax rate there is $1.77. Digby is, Middleton is $1.77, Annapolis Royal is $1.70. In comparison to Bridgetown, I think they are comparable. And to take the time to do all this, it will open up other areas of concern for residents in their districts, whether to put a rate down, for example, in Cornwallis Park or other places. It's going to bring up a big discussion. And in my opinion, I don't think now's the time. Thank you.
Councillor Barto?
Yeah, I echo Councillor Sheridan's concerns, and I feel on the same level. I think the comments of our CAO at the first of the discussions on the video was too bad they hadn't been at the end of the discussion, because maybe it would have leveled the playing field a little bit. I think that we are putting the cart ahead of the horse. We're doing some setting something up that at this point, where the UARB is has to approve these things. They've already gone through that process. I'm not sure where we're going now with it. And if the rates are fairly comparable to the surrounding districts, I just have concerns that we're putting an awful burden on staff at this time that may be unnecessary. We can look at it in the future. It's just that we have so much on our plate right now that I don't personally see the benefit or the need of it at this point.
Councillor Connell?
I have the same concern. I've had some issues that was brought to me during my election process. Since election, I've still had people approach me on issues, and I've explained to them that our plate is full. So their issues, I tell them I haven't forgotten. I'll definitely bring them forward. But until we get a handle on the issues we have, and we still have special committee whole set up to go over at least the Lifeplex building is still on our radar. We got budget coming next month. And in my mind, if we're going to do budget by the end of March, we better get at it, because there's some big concerns I have, and budget is not going to be passed by my vote just by one day going over it. So I think our plate's too full. And I think that where the rates are compatible with the other towns, and I have got some concerns. We just got told last week we're applying for two students to work for the county this summer. And where are they going? They're going at the new track in Bridgetown. What happened to the rest of our county residents? Now we're going to be scratching to put people out on the trails to fix the trails and deal with the trails and other parts of our county. Our taxpayers deserve to get things corrected that we're involved in. And in my mind, we have 4-year mandate. And I think that there's lots of time to review the Bridgetown rate. I don't think it needs to be put on our plate right now. Thank you.
Councillor Hudson?
You're muted.
Councillor Hudson. You're muted, Councillor Hudson.
Yeah, just an observation. I understand the workload that everyone is under currently, and we do have a lot under a plate. But just referring to the motions, if you look at number 4, you will see that a committee for that rate review is due to council by December 2021. So which is approximately 10, 11 months from now. So I guess this is not to overburden everyone currently, but I think there is some time, to look at this matter.
Councillor Sheridan?
I disagree with Councillor Hudson in regards to the time. There's going to be a lot of staff time involved here and councillors' time. And councillors have to remember that we have to start that planning with Albert. And it's going to take a tremendous amount of time in the community with all councillors. I still think this is not the time. That's my opinion.
Councillor Redden?
Yeah, I would side with Sheraton and Councillor Connell and Councillor Bartow. I think it's a lot of work on staff. I've got an email that's been half written for a couple of days to our CAO and Warden Parish about my concerns about the amount of work that we're taking on, and that a lot of these issues are incredibly complex, and that it's really important we doing them 100% the first time saved us a lot of work down the road. And I think with respect to tax rates, we're rezoning this entire county essentially in the next 2 years. And that's going to have a lot of input to tax rates and any changes we think about making. So I would not want to put a whole lot of effort into looking at a tax rate for one area, change maybe some of the zoning, maybe fairly drastically. I don't know how that's going to pan out, but it would be a real shame to have done something and then have to go back and relook at it.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments? Councillor Longmire?
Thank you. Yes, and I totally agree with each of the councillors that have spoken, and I equally hear what Councillor Hudson has stated as well. But I do believe that we do need to look out for the total, all citizens in the county. And right now that workload would be excessive. And I think the county citizens would have compassion on us as a council as we're undertaking a tremendous amount of business. And yeah, so I would have to say that I would be in favor of postponing that.
Any other comments? Now, Deputy Warden Gunn?
Thank you. I wanted to go back to Councillor Morrison's comment there, and a couple of words he said was motion meister. And I just love that term. And I find it very interesting because I've thought for years that Annapolis County should have an oversight committee on operational oversight committee to ensure that the motions that we're passing as council are being followed. Because there's many times in the last few years we've made motions and they've been sort of put on the back burner. And I don't want to go down this road, but I know that they're there. So perhaps not right away, but perhaps with the new CAO in place and in time, we could establish one. Thank you. I don't know what, and I got to add to that, I don't know what it is with administrations don't like the word oversight. Perhaps Mr. Catino, through you, Warden, could explain that to us sometime.
Warden, if I could just comment on that, I think I understand where the council is coming from. And this is where the council has one neck to squeeze. I guess that's the expression. It's the CAO's neck. And if things are not getting accomplished, you don't need an oversight committee. You just hold your CAO accountable. I know that the clerk is very diligent in ensuring that your requests get out to not only the CAO, but to all of staff. So I would say that the process is in place. You just need to hold your CAO accountable. Thank you.
Any other comments with respect to the creation of this committee? I'd like to make some comments. I understand the concern that the councillors have expressed with respect to the workload we've put on staff. I completely agree with that. You have no idea how much I agree with that. Because I work with a lot of them all the time, so I have a direct knowledge of that. So I understand that. However, my understanding, and I stand to be corrected, is that when Bridgetown came into being a part of the county, there was a 5-year plan. And during that 5 years, certain things were fixed. The UARB fixed certain things. The province gave some funds during that 5 years. And as I understand it, that 5 years is now over. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of in a new ball game as to what the relationship is going to be between Bridgetown and the county. I noticed that comparisons were made with the tax rate in the town of Middleton and the town of Annapolis Royal. Well, Bridgetown's not a town anymore. Bridgetown's part of the county. And either they're part of the county or they're not, as far as I'm concerned, they're now part of the county. And we need to take another look at the relationship between the former town of Bridgetown and the county, since they're now part of the county. And yes, I understand that's going to be a very big job, but I think that we owe it to the taxpayers and residents of Bridgetown to at least look at that, since the 5 years is up and we have to look into the future. Now, I don't think this has to be done tomorrow. But what I would like to do, I hear what councillors are saying. I don't want this just to go off the table. What I'd like to do is I would ask for an amendment to the motion that instead of striking this committee now, that this matter be come back on the agenda. I'm going to say September, August, when we have a new CAO that's got his feet wet. And we've dealt with hopefully a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about in the committee of the whole. And if we want to do something, then it's going to come back and we can decide to move ahead with the Bridgetown issue, or we can decide we're still too busy or whatever. So would someone move that we amend the motion that I'm looking at it now, that we, well, I don't, I guess just bring the matter back, I'm going to say, to the September council meeting. Council Redden, are you going to move that?
Yeah, I'll move that. Yeah.
Is there a
So would that-
seconder to that motion?
Would that be to September Committee of the Whole for discussion?
That would probably be the appropriate place, Madam Clerk, don't you think, Committee of the Whole?
Yeah.
So move it to September Committee of the Whole so that we don't lose track of it. And is there a seconder for that? Councillor Longmire, you're seconding that motion? Now, Madam Clerk, would you help me out? We'll have a discussion in a minute on the motion. There is a motion on the floor to strike the committee. So do I amend the motion to strike it in September Committee of the Whole, or should we have a new motion? Can you help me out on that procedural matter, Madam Clerk?
If you're not going to deal with it today, I would withdraw the motion that was made and then make a clean motion asking for the matter to be brought back to Committee of the Whole in September.
That's what I thought might be more appropriate. So we did have a motion on the floor, did we not, Madam Clerk?
There is a motion on the floor, yes.
And was it Councillor Hudson that moved it?
I would have to go way back just a minute. I
I
know.
believe it was. So-
Deputy Warden moved it and it was seconded by Councillor Hudson.
So can they just withdraw the motion at this point, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Deputy Warden and Councillor Hudson, will you withdraw the motion?
Aye.
Yes, and Councillor Hudson?
Yes, I will, with some reservation. I really don't see a problem in striking a committee at this time when this committee may commence meeting, to meet, whether it be September or some other month. To me, that's a different subject. Established a committee, I guess this, to my mind, is the first thing. When that committee may meet or start meeting is the second thing. And I think you will find further through the motions, you will see, well, maybe that is more appropriate to, that we deal with that matter further or later in the motions. Because you say in motion number 4, it mentions in the, will start as soon as it is populated, right? Well, perhaps we need to make an amendment that, will start as soon as a date that we may decide on, whether that be September or whatever date. I guess I just don't see any problem in striking a committee at this time.
So I take it you're not withdrawing your seconding of the motion. So that means maybe we should leave the motion on the floor. Madam Clerk, can you help me out? What happens here when the mover will withdraw but not the seconder? No, yeah. So I think then we, Councillor Barto, on the procedural issue.
Yes, can you go back to the original motion and ask to rescind it or anything without dealing with the amendment to the motion first and get rid of it? Or can you, or by dealing with the first one, it automatically rescinds the amendment to the motion?
Well, I think probably since we, what I'd like to do without further discussion, if someone else will move the motion that's on the floor that came from Committee of the Whole, I think I'd like to put it back on the table because the seconder won't withdraw it. And then
Point
we
of
can
order here.
defeat the
Just-
motion
just
if you
if
want. Well,
we-
can I just finish? Hello? I will let everybody speak, okay? But let's not talk over each other. Madam Clerk, did you want to say something?
The actual motion on the floor is an amendment.
Yeah.
And to bring it back to September Committee of the Whole, and it didn't actually fit the motion. Because to amend a motion, you either have to add something to it or remove something from it.
Yeah,
You could add to the end of that to review the Bridgetown rates. That amendment didn't really fit the motion for.
I I proposed, I raised the procedural issue of the amendment. I didn't think I moved the amendment.
There was a
I raised-
mover and a seconder on that amendment.
Oh, was there?
Yes.
And so the amendment was to strike it in.
It
Committee
was
of
to
the
bring
Whole.
to bring the matter back to September Committee of the Whole for discussion again. So
Yeah.
if you're going backwards, you have to withdraw the amendment first, please.
Let me just think for a moment. Well, then, I think, I know we had discussed that we would withdraw the motion and make a new motion to move it to September. Maybe we'll just leave the amendment where it is, Madam Clerk, and amend it to come back in September. And if we get that amendment passed, then I think we'll be all right.
So is the amendment to bring this motion back in September?
Bring this motion back to the September Committee of the Whole. That's the
Okay.
amendment.
So no, if you're bringing the issue back to be discussed again, you have to bring it back to send it to Committee of the Whole. If you want to bring this recommended action, recommended action was coming already to council. So the recommended action, if you want that to come in September, you can amend the motion to bring this recommended action to council in September. If what you're driving at is discussing it again in September, that has to go back to Committee of the Whole. And then the recommendation process would start again.
Well, I do think we want to discuss it again in September, is my view. So you're saying that we can't, and we'll have to dispose of this motion before the council and have a new motion to bring it back in September of Committee of the Whole. That's what I'm hearing you say.
So you have an amendment on the table that's been.
I'm going to withdraw the amendment because I
Thank you.
don't want it to come back to the council.
Thank you. Which takes you back to that motion as it stands.
Right. So the motion as it stands, I think the idea was that if I can read the room, that council doesn't want to deal with it, put it on staff at the moment, but maybe in September. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call for a vote on the motion that's before the floor about, and I'll just read it, to move in accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole that the Municipal Council strike an ad hoc Bridgetown Rate Review Committee to review the Bridgetown rates. Councilor Redden.
Point of order.
Councilor Redden.
So I've moved an amendment to this motion, but not been allowed to articulate what my amendment was. And then I've had my amendment removed from the floor without me rescinding my movement of the amendment, which I don't have a problem with the end result here. I have a bit of a problem with our procedure.
I don't remember your amendment. I'm sorry.
No, because I didn't get to speak to my amendment. And I was okay with the amendment that you put forward when I moved it, and that was kind of it. But I just think we should stick a little more to procedure in the future as to amendments getting moved and the mover actually articulating what their amendment is. And then if we're going to then remove an amendment, that the person moving the amendment actually gets to retract it. That's all
I'm sorry, I'd forgotten that you had moved it.
That's okay. It's a busy and confusing conversation. I don't envy your position doing these things, Warden. But I just want us to try and stick to procedure a little more tightly if we can. It makes it easier to follow as well, I think.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'd just forgotten that you moved it.
That's okay.
So the motion on the floor is to strike the committee now. Any other discussion? Councillor Connell.
And I understand Councillor Hudson's concern, but we don't want to forget it. And I'm on with the Councillor Redden is that if we're going to do it, let's do a good job at it. Make sure it's going to work. Make sure that we're not going to have to come back in 6 months and revisit it again because we oversaw something or we didn't see something. And I understand fully on your remarks that Bridgetown is the community of Bridgetown. But we also have within our county the village of Lawrencetown. and they have a similar rate above our regular tax rate that their citizens pay. And I hear Councillor Sheridan's concern is that how many of us around the table are going to think, if Cornwallis Park wants all this stuff, why isn't there some area rates in that area? Because I can tell you, my citizens in Margaretville and most of the citizens that live in our outreach part of our county only get the essential services. And that is it. Very little from their tax rate goes to other stuff. So it's going to be a big concern. And I want to use the citizens of our new community of Bridgetown correctly, but I definitely want the time to be able to really consider what the odds and what should be compared to the rest of our county. So at this time, I certainly would like to see it put out until September.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Prout?
Thank you. I had put my name forward as someone to serve on this committee. And I'm still willing to do that, but I agree with what appears to be the consensus here. Councillor Sheridan and others who have spoken, there's a lot going on. If the vote is just on setting it up at this point, I think I'm still willing to work on that committee if that's what goes through. But I agree with a lot of what's been said by Councillor Connell and others that we might be better served to take a look at this in the fall. If this original amendment is defeated, then maybe we can go ahead and put forward a new one to actually take it back up again in September. So I just sense that there's a lot of issues with adding it to our workload at this time. Thank you.
Okay, just for clarification, there's no amendment on the floor. It's the
original motion, sorry.
It's the original motion, and if the motion's defeated, then I will ask for a motion to bring this back to the committee of the whole in September.
Thank you.
Any other comments with respect to the motion on the floor?
Question, please.
I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. Nay.
Nay.
Okay, the motion's defeated. And at this point, I'll ask for a motion to bring this issue back to the committee of the whole in September. That's moved by Councillor Redden, seconded by Councillor Hudson. So, Madam Clerk, just so we get the motion correct for the record, it would, I guess it's no longer a recommendation of committee of the whole. I guess it's a new motion that the issue of striking an ad hoc Bridgetown rate review committee to review the Bridgetown rates will come back to the September committee of the whole meeting.
Yes.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Councillor LeBlanc.
So would you like to combine the two first, the motion 2 and 3, just adding to the fact that it would have up to 5 councillors on it? Or do you gonna?
I see those coming back in September. I see them not being brought forward today and coming back.
Okay.
I don't think we're gonna, for example, I don't see us fixing a finish date today.
No.
So the motion on the floor is to bring back the issue of the Bridgetown Community Rate Review Committee and September Committee of the Whole. Any other comments?
Nope.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. So the next item on the agenda is the makeup of the Community Rate Review Committee. And the next one after that is the duration of the committee. And I think the sense of the council is that we don't want to deal with those today. Madam Clerk, do we have to deal with these?
You can make a comment that the following two motions are included, will be included in the discussion in September.
Okay, and do we need a
Two
motion? for that?
recommendation. The following two, you can just make a statement that the two following recommendations will be included in the September discussion.
And will that statement of mine, will that form part of the record when it comes back in September?
Yes.
Okay. Then I make that statement. Any comments with respect to that? Thank you. So we'll go on to the next one, which is the discontinuous road sections of the Longley Mountain Road. Deputy Warden?
In accordance with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council initiate the review process to allow staff to research the discontinuous road sections of Longley Mountain Road 0614 as per AM-1.4.5 road naming and community adjustment policy.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Barto? Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried. Next,
AM-1.4.14 low income tax exemption policy amend. I move in accordance with the 7-day notice having been given that Municipal Council amend AM-1.4.14 low income tax exemption policy by increasing the exemption amount to $325 and increasing the allowable income amount to $26,500.
is there a seconder for that? Councillor Prout? Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next, please.
AIM Network proposed asset management funding. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council authorize staff to proceed with an application for $50,000 in funding through the Municipal Asset Management Program for development of a tailored asset management program to be supplied in partnership with the AIM Network, and the municipality will fund the remaining costs of $12,500 through the Federal Gas Tax Fund.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Barto. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next.
AIM Network proposed asset management grant application. I move, pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, that Municipal Council direct staff to apply for a grant opportunity from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Municipal Asset Management Program for asset management inventory and preliminary capital projects, and commit to conducting the following activities in its proposed project submitted to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Municipal Asset Management Program to advance our asset management program. Activity 1, prepare an inventory of all major assets, including water, roads, storm, trails, sidewalks, parks, fleet, and municipally owned buildings and structures. Set up in the spreadsheet and GIS and undertake condition assessment. Activity 2, prepare a state of infrastructure report and a preliminary capital program. Activity 3, develop standard operating procedures to operationalize activities and provide staff training on updating and maintaining data and reports, and commit $12,500 $500 from its budget toward the cost of this initiative.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Barto? Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next.
Lawrencetown Consolidated School Request Letter of Awareness Acknowledgement. In accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council provide a letter of awareness/acknowledgement of the Lawrencetown Consolidated Elementary School application for a Nova Scotia Recreation Facility Development Plan for their community play structure project.
Thank you. Is there a second for that? Councillor Sheridan? Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next.
Homelessness in Annapolis County. I move, in accordance with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, that Municipal Council send a letter to the Honorable Chuck Porter, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and Honorable Leo Levine, Minister of Health, expressing our concern over the number of citizens in the Annapolis Valley who are struggling with finding adequate housing, especially during these winter months, and to call attention to the dire need for more affordable, low-cost housing options for citizens in the Valley area.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Prout? Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next.
Picnic Park at Upper Clements. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council direct that the CAO conduct a study of the Upper Clements Picnic Park within the context of making the area more attractive to the general public, and that the recommendations be submitted to April Committee of the Whole.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Morrison? Discussion? Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. Bearing in mind that the motion was coming to council from Committee of the Whole, I spoke to some citizens regarding this project of a study. And I've also taken on very much comments made by my colleagues on a previous item we discussed this morning. And I would like to move an amendment deleting the word April and inserting the word May.
And, okay, is there a seconder to the amendment?
I'll second that.
Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion on the amendment. I take it, Councillor Morrison, it's because of the workload. I take it was
Yes, exactly. Not only, yeah, the workload of the study itself, and when you bear in mind what we talked about recently, I know this work will get done. It's not as imperative as some of the other things before council now.
Thank you. Any other discussions on the amendment to the month of May? Saying none, I'll call for the vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Back to discussion on the motion as amended. Councillor Connell.
When the staff brings us back a report there, one of the things I have concerns about is that it is great that we keep taking on parks for our county and stuff like that. But again, I have a small park in Margarettsville, but there's a committee in the community that takes care of that park.
Hmm.
So I'd like to see something that comes back from the staff, is that, you know, is there a citizens group that would take on that park or help keep the maintenance up on it if we supplied the equipment? Or I just think that, again, when I look around the county and see what's supplied in our communities for our taxpayers, some areas are left out. So I think there should be a group, friend of the parks or what park or whatever, to maybe help the county out in that. So I would like to have that part of the study, that maybe a request goes out to a community group.
Deputy Warden Gunn.
Thank you. I agree, Councillor Connell. There is a group who I have talked to, some of them in that area, and they kind of feel that it would be good if they had some, that's the Upper Clements Hall Society or whatever it is that look after the community hall there. They seem very interested in it and might take it under their mandate. I don't know, I can't speak for them, but I suspect that will. As well, with this picnic park that the community obviously wants back, I have, you know, I as a counselor would take this on and go solicit businesses to go down there and put those little roofs back up and help us out a little bit, because this is our community park and our community should be involved with it much more than what the county. We can, I'm sure, arrange for some mowing and the rest of it, but the operation of that park, you know, I think the community will pick up that banner.
Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, and I thank my colleagues for their comments on this item. It's a great source of pride to District 6 and to the rest of the county. And just to bring folks up to date, the county last year assumed responsibility for mowing the picnic park. And I, as I previously submitted, have had discussions with folks in the area, folks at the Upper Clements Hall, and I'm sure all of these suggestions made by my colleagues will be considered. Thank you.
Further comments? I'm certain those comments will be considered by staff, assuming the motion passes. So I'll call for a vote on the motion. Sorry? Thought I heard somebody say something. No. So I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. And that's the, I should clarify, that was for the motion as amended. Next.
Annapolis County Climate Change Action Summit Final Report. I move, pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, that municipal ask the CAO to locate the final report of Annapolis County Climate Change Action Summit and distribute to members of council.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Morrison. Discussion? Deputy Warden.
Thank you. I kind of read that report and scratched my head as to what it was all about. I don't have a feeling that we got good value for our dollars. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Annapolis.
Yeah, go ahead.
Annapolis Basin Conference Center. In accordance with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council send a letter of appreciation to Annapolis Basin Conference Center for its service in providing facilities for a number of county meetings.
Second, Councillor Morrison. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried.
Western Regional Housing Authority Board. Recommendation for ministerial appointment. I move in accordance with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole that Municipal Council recommend Nicola Vance Lusada to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing for ministerial appointment as the municipality of the County of Annapolis's representative on the board of the Western Regional Housing Authority.
Second, Councillor Barto. Discussion? Oh, Councillor Barto.
I just wanted to make a note that I was on that committee for 4 years before I was a councillor, and it was it's a very useful. There's a big need for that, and I'm appreciative of the individuals for coming forward to fill the position that I vacated.
Thank you. Further comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next.
Margaret,
Lunchtime.
Okay. I hear a call. I hear a call for lunch.
Yes, you heard it.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn for lunch.
so moved.
Moved by the Deputy Warden, seconded by Councillor Barto. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Welcome back. This is the continuation of the February 16th council meeting for the municipality of the County of Annapolis. When we broke for lunch, we were reviewing the reports and recommendations from Committee of the Whole. And we will pick up where we left off. And if I have it correct, the next is the Margarettsville Source Water Protection Advisory Committee. Deputy Warden.
That's right. Margarettsville Source Water Protection Advisory Committee, not more than 4 citizens. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council waive by resolution the restriction regarding consecutive appointments and appoint Harold Baker as a citizen member of the Margarettsville Source Water Protection Advisory Committee, satisfying Section 28(5) of the policy for an additional 2-year term ending November 30th, 2022.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Connell? Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried. Next.
Margarettsville Water Supply Area Advisory Committee, not more than 4 citizens. I move pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole that Municipal Council waive by resolution the restriction regarding consecutive appointments and appoint Harold Baker as a citizen member of the Margarettsville Water Supply Area Advisory Committee, satisfying Section 29(3) of the policy for an additional 2-year term ending November 30th, 2022.
Second, Councillor Connell.
Yep.
Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next.
Amend Citizen Advisory Committee policies to allow for greater citizen participation. In accordance with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council ask staff to amend all citizen advisory committee policies to allow for greater citizen participation of all residents, not only property owners, where it is possible to do so.
Second. Councillor Sheridan. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried. Next.
Cornwallis Park Area Advisory Committee, not more than 6 citizens. Thanks for interest. I move, in accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, that Municipal Council send a letter to Kevin Burnell, thanking him for his interest in becoming a member of the Cornwallis Park Area Advisory Committee and welcoming an application when he is qualified to do so.
Second, Councillor Morrison. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried.
Cornwallis Park Area Advisory Committee, not more than 6 citizens. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council appoint Benjamin Forsyth as a citizen member of the Cornwallis Park Area Advisory Committee, satisfying Section 29D of the policy for a 2-year term ending November 30th, 2022.
Second, Councillor Morrison. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Re-advertise to fill citizen vacancies on the Cornwallis Park Area Advisory Committee and the Heritage Advisory Committee. I move, pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, that Municipal Council re-advertise to fill citizen vacancies on the Cornwallis Park Area Advisory Committee and the Heritage Advisory Committee.
Second, Councillor Morrison. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Heritage Advisory Committee, 3 citizens. In accordance with the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council send a letter to Stephen Hobble advising the vacancy on the Heritage Advisory Committee is being re-advertised and encouraging him to reapply. Further, that the recording secretary contact the persons who previously indicated an interest to encourage them to apply.
Second, Councillor Connell. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried.
Granville Ferry Source Water Protection Advisory Committee, not more than 2 citizens. Policy AM-1.3.6.9. I move, in accordance with the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, that Municipal Council send a letter to David Gartley, thanking him for his application, explaining that technically he does not qualify to become a citizen member, and advising steps are being taken to try to change the policy.
Second, Councillor Barto. Discussion? Councillor Barto? You're muted, Councillor Barto.
I forgot. I guess maybe we, as per the previous motion, maybe we could suggest he reapply at the appropriate time.
I'm not sure. Do we have to change the policy first, Mr. Capino?
Yes.
Can someone, Madam Clerk?
Under the current policy, he does not qualify under the current policy.
Okay, on a previous motion up for Cornwallis Park, it said welcoming him to reapply when he's qualified to do so, I guess. I just thought for consistency, we would do the same thing.
It will all be when they're advertised. Yeah.
Councillor LeBlanc, you want to say something?
Well, just to clarify, maybe this will help. Not sure. What's happened here in the heritage one is what you're talking about, Councillor Barto, is the fact that it had not been advertised, and that way it keeps it as a
So
record.
we're
And
talking about the water source right now.
Pardon me?
We're talking about the water source.
Yes, so I'm getting to that. So the next one, at the water source one, at this particular time, because of the status, he does not qualify at all. However, we're going to be looking into the different policies and see if we can change them so that we can have people that are not qualifying now apply later. But we're right at this moment, he does not qualify.
There are designated rounds when applications are called.
Right. So when and if the policies are changed, it will be re-advertised, and then possibly, and then he would possibly qualify. So I don't know if that shows you a little bit more of the clarity of it or not.
Through you, Warden, thank you for your explanation, Councillor LeBlanc. And maybe we can forward that to next committee of the whole to discuss.
Councillor Barto, if I could bring your attention to XVII earlier, up further in the page where we're asking municipal council to amend the committee policies. That might assist your friend in
That's the one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess I haven't called for a vote yet on this. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried. Next,
Bridgetown Elementary School. Pursuant to the recommendation of Committee of the Whole, I move that Municipal Council request the CAO to bring a staff report to April Committee of the Whole regarding the history and status of the former Bridgetown Elementary School.
seconder, Councillor Hudson. Councillor Connell.
When that report comes to Committee of the Whole, could we also have a map of the land and maybe a little bit of knowledge on if the school was tore down, how many building lots would be there for sale? So, I mean, so we could have some comparison to what we're dealing with. I went down yesterday and drove around the school, and to sell the school is going to make very few lots that we're going to be able to sell for housing.
I see Mr. Catino, sorry.
So I just think that if we had a map and maybe just a synopsis of if the school wasn't there, how many lots we'd have for sale, so we would know comparison wise what if we should add that into our discussion.
I see Mr. Catino taking notes, Councillor Connell.
Yep. Warden, if I could just quickly respond to that. I know Albert is on the phone. Sorry, is on Zoom, but it might be presumptuous of us to assume how many lots because different developers have different standards. Are you looking for a particular size lot, Councillor? Because then that might be easier to do. I mean, if these are going to be large lots, could be fewer. I'm not sure I understand exactly how you want us to do that in terms of how many lots, because it could be.
Well, I guess that several years. We've had the school for several years. 7 or 8 years ago, when it was given over to the council, to the county, we talked about tearing it down then. It's gone through 2 councils. It still sits there. I see some windows boarded up yesterday. I see footmarks around the school. So I don't know how much it's costing the taxpayers every month to, you know, we must have staff to go by there routinely to check and see if someone's gone in the school. I don't know if we're paying power. We don't know if we're paying heat. We don't know if we're paying insurance. All I know is that that abandoned school has been a part of the county for probably 7, 8 years. And all it's done is cost the taxpayers money. My concern is that if it wasn't there, and because that's all residential in that area, I'm assuming that we would want to probably put residential back in that area. So my idea would be is that how many residential lots could we actually put for sale there to know if we can recoup the money it would cost to tear the school down. I guess that's my comparison.
Warden, through you to Councillor Connell, I guess that was what I was trying to get at. It's and I'll let Albert chime in. I guess council will have to determine first if that's if you want to rezone that lot. It's probably institutional now. I'm not sure. If you want to rezone it to residential, is it going to be high density residential? Are you going to allow apartment buildings and housing of some kind, or is it just going to be single home residences? I think I'll let Albert chime in because I'm not really sure how we go about that process right now. Albert.
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on. Yeah.
You're on.
So first thing, the property needs to sale. That was my department looking after the sale of the property. But when it comes to defining the number of lots and stuff like that, there are a number of criteria that are set out in the land use bylaw, which would limit it. It's institutional right now, but it's surrounded by a lower density residential. So essentially, you would be looking at single unit dwellings. One of the criteria was you can't look at higher units like apartments and stuff like this. In the Bridgetown bylaw, it has a requirement that any apartment buildings must be located on a main road, and that one is not main road. So if council wanted to consider that, we'd have to amend the land use bylaw as well if we wanted to look at higher density types of residential development.
Well, I'm sure this report will just be a first step, so we could have some options. Council, Deputy Warden, were you wanting to say something?
No, I do, but I know that when the report comes and we have the maps set in front of us, that'll answer a lot of questions that we have. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Last one.
Last one, communities, culture, and heritage. I move pursuant to the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole to authorize the warden and clerk to countersign the letter dated February 3rd, 2021, as requested by Nova Scotia Community, Cultures, and Heritage.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Sheridan. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, now we're going on to correspondence. The first is a letter from Clark Rutherford Memorial School. Would someone like to move that we receive that for information? Councillor or Deputy Warden Gunn, seconded by Councillor Connell. Is there any discussion? Councillor LeBlanc.
When I was reading through this letter, what brought to my attention was the fact that it was the Joint Occupation and Health and Safety Committee that wrote this letter to us. And taking that in mind, I'm thinking that I was surprised because that particular section usually deals with the school insides and outside of the school areas. Now, I don't know anything about the roads that the school goes to. I'm wondering how, if somebody knows how bad these roads are, and do a little bit of an explanation or exploratory of the roads, if that's where I'm at with that. I don't know how bad these roads are, if that's the way it is.
Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. A few months ago, I spent a couple of hours protesting with a placard down at the school, trying to get drivers to slow down when they took the road in. I must tell you also that I'm embarrassed by this letter because I had no knowledge of it being submitted, nor any knowledge that folks at the school were concerned about the road. And I tried to call the principal today, but of course, schools are not in session. But I will call her tomorrow and try to have a discussion about how she feels. Thank you.
Any other comments with respect to the letter? There's a motion to receive it for information. Seeing, oh, Councillor LeBlanc, did you want to say something else?
I'm just wondering, obviously these are our roads. That's a question. I guess.
Mr. McGinnis, can you respond to that?
I'm reading the letter correctly. Just looking at the map here too. I think she's referring to Labrador Lane. That is actually one of the roads we did not take over. And it is not our property. So I think some clarification with the school can be provided as to who controls that. My understanding in years past, Annapolis Maintenance would provide the plow truck, but we're not in, it's not our responsibility to patch that section of road. Again, it was one of the roads that was not designated for turnover when the county took over the park in 1996.
Councillor Morrison?
If I may.
Thank you. Half of the road, and I mean that in a vertical sense, not a horizontal sense, half of the road belongs to a private citizen who allows people going to the school to drive on his land. The other half of the road, I am fairly certain, belongs to the Annapolis Basin Conference Center.
I wonder if we could leave it with Councillor Morrison, since he said he's going to get back to the principal and Mr. McGinnis, the two of them to discuss this and bring it back if need be at some future time.
I agree.
Can we leave it at that? Okay. I don't know if we need a motion because I don't know what the timing would be. So unless there are further comments, I'll call for a vote on the motion to receive for information. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is a letter from Nova Scotia Transportation and Infrastructure, which is, would someone move it to be received for information? Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Deputy Warden Gunn. This is just a response to my earlier letter, basically saying that things look okay with respect to McGinty Road and Easy Street. Any further comments?
None at this time.
Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next is a letter from the Paradise Community Hall Committee. Would someone move to put this on the table with a motion to receive?
Move to receive.
Deputy Warden moves, Councillor Hudson seconds. Someone like to speak to this? It's basically just thanking the council for the grant funds. They used them to put in a new oil tank. Deputy Warden?
Thank you. So this means that all halls can apply to Annapolis County for a new oil tank when they need it. Is this what this opens up with the halls?
It's always been.
So if it's good for one, it's good for them all.
I can't answer that. Perhaps Mr. Catino can answer that.
Council, you pose a difficult question. This is what happens when you do make exceptions. But looking at this one here, I don't know the underlying circumstances, but a decision was made to support them in that effort. And it might be that another community hall might have the very same circumstance. I don't know. I don't know. I know the question you're posing. This is not the function of council usually to go that far down the road, but you do have that ability to assist a community group in some trouble. And this one here might have been an extenuating circumstance. I don't know all of the reasons behind it.
Thank you.
Councillor Morrison? Councillor
Thank
Morrison?
you.
I think you're
As we know, we have a number of. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're frozen. You're in and out. Keep going. You're good now.
Okay, we have a number of policies and regulations, and citizen groups can apply for whatever they want. And as long as they are in accordance with the policies and procedures, then council can decide to do whatever it wants in the particular case. And in this case, we decided to do that.
Any other comments with respect to the letter of thanks, Councillor Barto?
Yeah, I think we should accept that, but maybe we need a little further conversation committee wall regarding some of these grants. I'm familiar with some of them, and I didn't think that this one fit into that category, but it happened before this council came into being, so I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Deputy Warden?
Thank you. I have the utmost respect for community halls. I've watched them throughout the county keep running. I watched some never apply for grants and do projects, major projects on their own, and wouldn't even think about coming to the county for their money. And I see other halls, not calling anybody out or anything like that, but other halls that are almost become a line budget every year. They're in there. So I think, in my own mind, I think that we should review our policies, have a review of some of our policies coming up in the next year and sort of bring them back to earth, because perhaps the previous council went a little astray in their generosity, if you can understand where I'm getting from. So I think we should look at our policy, and I think we should rework it. Thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc.
And I have to say, it's been a couple different councils that have gone in this direction. So maybe from my understanding, just maybe I misunderstood that Louis was saying that maybe we're not looking at it the right way and it should be looked after. So maybe can say that we should be looking at certain things and have different criterias, or if some things are allowed and are not. We've never been told. Well, I've never been told. Maybe I missed it. So it would be nice to go over it.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. Madam Clerk, do we have a policy on these grants, specifically on these community grants?
We absolutely do. We have a staff person who dedicates her time to the grant applicants, to speaking with each applicant and offering her knowledge on other sources of revenue that they might be able to tap into. She talks with them on which policy they best fit. don't fit any policy, she also tells them that. If they fit in council's policy, she then prepares a request for decision, gives you all that information, and council makes the decision on it. When council does approve a grant, they request, when the warden sends his letter out saying we've approved the grant, they request, the warden requests that they send an update and pictures, if they have them available, on how they use the grant funds as requested. So this letter to you is responding to their, I believe, regular grant application. And they're letting you know that thank you for the funding given as requested under the policy. And this is what we did with it, and we appreciate it.
Yes.
This letter is.
I think what I'd like to leave it is Deputy Warden and Councillor LeBlanc, if you've got issues, why don't you review the policy at your leisure? And if you'd like to bring forward a motion at the next committee of the whole to have it reviewed, then you can do that. But since it's a new item, we hadn't really discussed it. I don't think I'm going to call for a vote on that today, but I invite you to review it. And if you feel it should be reviewed, then we can do that. Councillor LeBlanc, did you want to add something?
Thank you very much for that. I couldn't have said it better myself. What the clerk explained is correct. And if there's an issue, I don't have an issue with giving them the money for that. But if we want to look at it, it should be nice that we look at some of our policies sometimes just as a review. Thank you.
And I'm fine with that. Thank you.
So there's a motion on the table to receive this for information, the thank you for the grant. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is a letter from Mr. Habinski. Would someone like to put that on the table to receive for information? Councillor Connell moves. Is there a seconder to receive it for information? Councillor Longmire. Is there any discussion? Councillor Connell.
Well, I took some concern about the way the letter was written, that he seems to know a lot more than most of us. And I was there for 15 years and a part of Valley Waste. I sat on that committee for many years. And I took offense that he thought he was the only one that knew the knowledge. And I definitely, my side of the story is he read it wrong. He didn't know the side of the story. And I just get a little ticked that we had an election a few months ago and it showed people wanted to change. He should go back and review how many people voted for him and they wanted change. Other than that, he can keep sending his letters.
Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. Going back to the meeting that was held in West Paradise Hall, I do believe it was September 26th. That's where the warden at the time had made the announcement that the transfer station was going to be up and running and active. And so even at that meeting, he did choose to use the word tonnage and made many comments around that. But prior to that, he had not made any of, he had not brought that to any of the citizens. And he proclaims that that was a public consultation, and in which it actually was not. And so the citizens were unaware. And so again, exactly what Councillor Connell is saying, I don't know where he's coming up with all of that. It's rather concerning.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Prout.
Thank you. I'm reminded when we had our workshop, our committee of the whole workshop on Valley Waste, I asked about the concept that there was fault on both sides and so on, and we didn't really go very far with that. But I do recall at that workshop that a lot of information came forward about how Annapolis County was treated at those meetings when our former deputy warden was there. And I thought we gained a lot of information there. Now, you can agree or disagree with the former warden's statements, but my question in at the time at that workshop about realizing there was fault on both sides, a lot of it seems to shift, and so it was all our fault. And by our, I mean, that was before my time, but I think if I'm really nervous going forward, thinking that, well, you know, gee, we were at fault totally, and we'll just take our lumps here and do whatever. You can agree or disagree with the former warden, but much of what he states here, I can remember hearing on the previous council. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Oh, I'm going to answer that.
Deputy Warden?
Thank you. You know, I was the alternate with the former Councillor Roberts on Valley Waste. And I sat through all of those meetings at that time, especially when it first started. And yes, there was, Valley Waste was working outside of the agreement. We know that, you know, right from, you know, their CAO taking 5-6 months of the year sick leave to giving themselves the 10% across the board pay rates and all kinds of things. The $30 million, 20-year contract they entered us into, all kinds of things they did. Also, Annapolis County should have paid its bill. We understand that now. But, you know, a lot of us on the former council, and I think some of us here, would agree that that whole situation could have been avoided if the former CAO and the former warden had stayed out of the conversation and let Martha do her job and bring it up, the problems that we were foreseeing. They got very much involved with it all. And the next thing you know, it was head to head with other municipalities. I'm not going to go into this too much more, but that's what I know. So it's not all Annapolis County's fault by any means.
Yeah, true.
Thank you.
Councillor Redden?
One thing I've heard brought up in many places, and this is Deputy Warden just brought it up, and I'm not picking on him. Was this idea that the CAO was on sick leave for many months, and that this is a bad thing, or whatever? I mean, I admit it. Superficially, that sort of has a bad. It's easy to perceive it wrong, but I mean, to criticize somebody for being on sick leave, and I don't know any of the circumstances around it, is it a pretty harsh thing to do? I mean, I'm not, like I said, I have no information on it, but the fact that he was gone for 5 months, and I've heard rumors about him traveling places and things like that. I mean, if you're on sick leave, you're on sick leave, and frankly, it's none of our business where he was or what he was doing. If he is legitimately on sick leave, I trust it to the person being on sick leave, no matter where they are, that they are doing their best to get well. And if that happens to be, in this circumstance, we'll say Florida, that's not us that's not our position to judge. Unless there's actual evidence of corruption, that is not appropriate in any sense. There's lots of things to talk about here that we can agree on or disagree on. I think it's a grave injustice to try and bring something like that into the mix without some really solid evidence of it being inappropriate. And I'll just leave it at that.
Have your opinion.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Thank you. I, from the get-go, totally agree with every comment that Councillor Redden has said. That was not part of any discussion that I would be thinking of. When the person is on sick leave, I have to agree. What Councillor Redden said, that was not a factor as far as I'm concerned, and that had anything to do with the rest of what went on. I'll just add that for now.
Any other comments? Seeing none, oh, Councillor Longmire.
Sorry, thank you. I guess I would like to just ask, you know, what work was actually done when they cited the issues working outside of the contracted agreement, that they, you know, what did they actually do to come to the position of leaving and striking up anew? And also, I just would like to point out the letter that we were provided from Mr. Habitsky. I don't see a signature on that letter. And so I question even how it was and who it was generated by. That's my observation.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote to receive for information. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is a letter from the Nova Scotia Municipal Affairs and Housing. It's addressed to Mr. Catino. Talks about money provided for the pandemic. Everybody's read it. Basically, it does talk about the $713,000 that the SRA start. What's the SRA, Ms. Campbell? The words for that SRA, what is it, Madam Clerk?
Safe Restart Agreement.
Right, thank you. Any comment with respect to the letter? Seeing none, did I get a motion? Madam Clerk? No
Not
motion.
yet, no.
A motion to receive for information moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by the Deputy Warden. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Well, there's no
Next is a
discussion,
letter
Morgan?
from Darlene Carmanos in support of Gordonston School. Would someone move to receive that for information? Councillor Hudson, seconded.
No.
Councillor Prout. Discussion? Councillor LeBlanc.
Should we read the letter?
Well, we haven't read the other letters. It's in support of Gordonston School. Any other comments? Councillor Connell.
I've taken some comments from people and some of the concerns that our new council's being blamed for trying to squash the school. And I think that the individuals that are shouting this out and making these remarks, I only have one concern as a tax-paying citizen, and a lot of my constituents gave me the same thing when I went canvassing. As far as we know, he has no investors. So it's nice to send us a nice letter supporting the idea of the school. But if these individuals got their heart set on this school being in our county, they should invest. They have the full opportunity to call Mr. Farron and offer an investment of money on their behalf to have this happen. I encourage anyone that wants a school to get on the bandwagon. Just don't send us letters. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I have,
Councillor LeBlanc?
I do have a problem with the last statement. I think that we shouldn't be telling citizens to not send us any letters. I think that's kind of is a little bit too far. I think all citizens should have the opportunity to send letters that are good or bad. Just my personal comment, Mr. Warden.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Next is from 12 Baskets Food Bank.
Wow.
And this is thanking us for a donation. Someone like to move to receive this for information? Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Longmire. Discussion? Deputy Warden?
I'd
No.
rather Councillor Prout go first.
Councillor Prout, sorry.
Thank you. And thank you, Deputy Warden. I would just remind council that we previously, perhaps it was the former council, received a thank you. At the time that 12 Baskets received their donation, the Upper Room Food Bank from Kingston, which serves about 95% of my district, approximately 45 to 55% of Councillor LeBlanc's district, and somewhere between 5 and 10% of Councillor Connell's district. They received an equal donation at the time, and they sent us a tax receipt and a nice thank you. I'm thinking somewhere around September or October of last year. So, and in which they also thanked us and stated how it was put to good use. So I just throw that in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. And the last letter is from the Shoulders Memorial Hospital Foundation. Would someone like to move we receive that? Councillor Sheridan, do you want to move that?
Sure, thank you.
A second, Councillor LeBlanc. Discussion? Councillor Sheridan?
I just want to say once again, thank you very much for the kind donation in my dad's memory. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried. Next on the agenda is the in-camera session with respect to litigation. And since I'm going to ask some of the staff to leave for that, I thought with council's agreement, I'd ask for a motion to change the order of the agenda and deal next with the late edition, being setting dates for committee meetings. Would someone move that we change the order of the agenda? Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Longmire. Any discussion about moving next to setting the date for the committee meetings? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Now, I believe, Deputy Warden, you are the one who brought this up. Would you like to speak to it?
Thank you. Well, we have two committees here that are going, and I'd like, and the glyphosate committee said we'd have our work done by July. In order to do that, even get it done by August, we got to meet, we got to get this work going on. So I would like to set a date for the glyphosate committee to start meeting in March and April, and the forestry committee to meet March and April. Now, here's the thing. I want to touch another base on another thing here all at the same time. Carolyn our clerk brought up a good point here about the meetings. Now, the forestry committee basically is the forestry committee, right? Where we're doing, because we don't have a lot of public to bring into it. Although they're probably welcome, as you say, to meet with us, but I don't know why. We've got no questions with them. So we won't have a lot of people coming in. It'll be much like the forestry committee worked before. The glyphosate committee wants to call in several different government representatives of government and Department of Agriculture and one thing and another to study the uses of glyphosate. So with those, and to answer Carolyn's concern, if the committees just meet in chamber, cannot we have the other presenters meet with us via Zoom? And so that the public doesn't have to be in chambers with us, can't we just further put that online within the 24-hour period, what the meeting was? That would satisfy all fronts, I would think. You understand what I'm proposing there?
I understand. I think one of the issues was the recording material is set up in the Legion for us to do our meetings, and it would have to be broken down and taken to our council chambers. Is that right, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
And that's one issue. I just want to point out, I always look with interest what the other municipalities are doing in this regard when I see the ads in the paper. And I saw one municipality just yesterday, I forget which one it was, that they were holding a public meeting and they were going to do it in person. And what they did is, if you want to come, the public, you're given notice and then you have to sign up. And I assumed that if the number was such that the meeting could be held, then it would go ahead. And if there were too many people, maybe it wouldn't. But all that to say that, we need to have, I think, a protocol about these meetings. And I agree that your forestry committee may not have a lot of the public that want to come. Maybe they will. Whereas other committees will want a lot of the public to come. But I do think we need a protocol on how we're going to handle this. I wonder if, Mr. Coutinho, could you speak to how we're going to conduct committee meetings?
Warden, through you to council, so this has come up a couple of times today, and perhaps I'll go back and Dawn, our Director of Legislative Services, and I will come back with a report on how best we can accommodate it. There are, as one of the councilors suggested, there are hybrid types of meetings where you can have partial Zoom and council in the chambers. There might be other models, but let's get back to you with some options.
At the Committee of the Whole in March?
Yes. Yep.
Is that satisfactory, Deputy Warden?
Yep, good. So we'll deal
Madam
with
Clerk,
the Committee of the
do we
Whole.
need a
in March.
motion? Do we need a motion for that, Madam Clerk, or can we just leave it to the staff to bring it back?
It'll be captured in the minutes that staff will come back to March committee though.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Unless there's something else on the agenda, that leaves the in-camera meeting with respect to the litigation. Councillor LeBlanc?
Mr. Warden, Councillor Redden has had his hand up for a while.
Oh, okay. Councillor Redden, sorry, I missed you down in the corner.
That's all right. Just with respect to the opening of meetings and stuff like that, I mean, I think it's really important we get these committees moving. I think it's important that we consider not just that they're open, but that access is equitable, and that we should remember that just because we're putting things on the internet doesn't mean that all of our county can actually access them. The majority of my district does not have sufficient internet to stream movies or stream videos. If they were downloadable, this would help with things like this seems like an appropriate time to do a little review as to the equity of our access and not just the absolute ability of access. All I really have to say. I've got an email I've been drafting for the warden and the CAO on this as well. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Coutinho?
Warden, we will take all ideas. If councilors have some suggestions, please email it to us right away. We'll take all ideas. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other, Councillor LeBlanc?
I'm just thinking, we need to get on this quickly because we have all this planning to do that will involve all of our county. And if we don't come up with a plan soon, I don't know how we're gonna do it. Like, quick.
Agreed.
I'm sure Albert is awaiting on what we're going to do.
Right. Any other comments? Seeing none, then I will move along to the in-camera portion of the meeting, which relates to litigation or potential litigation under the Municipal Government Act, Section 22(2)(f). Could I have a motion to go in camera in that regard? Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Barto. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion's carried. Okay, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Barto moves, Councillor Sheridan seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.